The audience inside the View studio buzzed with anticipation. The energy was sharp, electric, the kind that always came with a controversial guest. This morning's episode had been hyped for days. Blake Shelton, country superstar, former voice coach, and outspoken small-town icon, was joining the ladies at the table. Cameras rolled, lights burned bright against the glass table, and the co-host shuffled cue cards while the audience settled into silence. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward with her trademark grin. "Welcome back to The View. We have one of the biggest country stars in the world with us today, please welcome Blake Shelton." The audience burst into applause as Blake strode onto the set, every inch of him laid back charm and confidence. Jeans, boots, a faded denim shirt, he looked as though he'd walked straight off his Oklahoma ranch and into Manhattan. He smiled, waved, and gave Whoopi a friendly handshake before sliding into his chair. "Morning, ladies," he said in that slow southern drawl, his tone smooth but mischievous. Joy Behar, seated just across from him, smirked playfully. "Blake Shelton in the house. Now this is going to be fun." The crowd chuckled. Blake grinned. "Well, that depends on how much coffee you've had, Joy." Whoopi chuckled. "Oh, he's ready already." Joy leaned in. "Don't worry, cowboy, I'll take it easy on you. So, let's start with something simple. You've got a new album, you've been living on that big Oklahoma ranch with Gwen Stefani, and you seem pretty happy. But tell me," she gave a sly smile, "how's a California rock star adjusting to life in the middle of nowhere? Does she even know what a tractor looks like?" The audience laughed, but Blake's smile wavered slightly. "Oh, she knows. She's got her own boots now too," he said. "You'd be surprised how good she looks driving a tractor." Laughter rolled through the room, but Joy pressed on, clearly enjoying the back and forth. "That's cute, but come on, no offense, do you really think she's built for small-town life? I mean, you're talking about the woman who sang with No Doubt and wore pink hair for half her career." Blake chuckled, but there was an edge to his voice. "Well, Joy, she's tougher than she looks. She fits right in where we are. Folks out in Oklahoma don't care what you wear, they care how you treat people." The audience clapped lightly at that, sensing the tension creeping into the conversation. Joy's grin didn't fade, but her tone shifted ever so slightly. "Fair enough," she said. "But be honest, do you ever get bored out there? No paparazzi, no red carpets, just fields and dirt roads. You can admit it, we won't tell Gwen." Blake leaned back, the faintest glint of irritation showing in his eyes. "No, ma'am," he said calmly. "That's kinda the point. It's peace and quiet. You should try it sometime." The crowd laughed again, louder this time. Joy smirked. "Oh, I'd last about 5 minutes before running back to civilization." Blake smiled thinly. "Yeah, I figured." The audience gasped at the slight jab, but he said it so casually, so dryly, that half of them burst into laughter anyway. Whoopi, sensing where this might go, stepped in with a laugh. Okay, before this turns into The Voice debate edition, let's talk music. Blake, your new record's a love letter to where you're from, right?" "Sure is," Blake said, nodding. "It's about home, family, working hard, all the stuff that built me. The kind of stuff folks still believe in, even if TV doesn't talk about it much anymore." Joy interjected, her voice lighter but edged with sarcasm. "You mean the kind of folks who don't watch The View?" Blake's grin returned, sharp this time. "Well, they might, if you stopped talking about 'em like they're extinct." The studio air tightened instantly. The laughter died down. Even the camera operator seemed to freeze. Joy blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me." Blake leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You just made my point. Every time country folks get brought up on shows like this, it's like we're a punchline. You don't have to like our music or our politics, but maybe stop acting like we're from another planet." The audience erupted in surprised murmurs. Whoopi gave him a subtle warning look, but he didn't stop. Joy tried to regain control of the conversation. "I was just joking. Come on, Blake. You've gotta admit, you country boys can be a little old-fashioned." Blake's eyes narrowed. "Old-fashioned's not a bad thing. We still believe in things like shaking hands, respecting people, and meaning what we say." "Sure," Joy replied with a small, patronizing smile. "But times change." Blake tilted his head. "Yeah, but respect shouldn't." That line hit hard. The crowd broke into applause, some cheering, others unsure if they were supposed to. Joy, feeling the momentum slip, crossed her arms. You're taking this awfully serious for a guy who writes love songs about tractors. Backstage, the noise from the studio still echoed faintly, applause, chatter, a few stunned gasps that hadn't yet died down. Blake Shelton walked past the heavy black curtains, his boots clapping against the concrete floor, the air thick with tension and studio heat. A production assistant tried to hand him a bottle of water, but he just waved it off, muttering a polite, "Thanks anyway." His jaw was tight, his shoulders rigid. He wasn't angry, not exactly, but there was a burn in his chest that hadn't cooled yet. Years in the industry had taught him how to take jokes, but there was a difference between humor and condescension, and Joy Behar had crossed that line. A young intern whispered to another, "Did he really just walk off?" The other nodded, wide-eyed. "He did, and it was live." Blake exhaled, leaning against a metal equipment case, trying to collect himself. He could hear Whoopi's voice echoing faintly from the stage, wrapping up the segment with some light banter before tossing it to commercial. She was trying to patch the wound before the internet turned it into a wildfire, but he knew it was too late. His publicist, Jenna, hurried over, tablet in hand, already scrolling through the first waves of reactions. "Blake, we need to talk," she said, her tone walking that fine line between panic and professionalism. "It's blowing up online. Half of Twitter's calling you a hero, the other half thinks you're a bully." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Figures. You stand up for yourself these days, people pick a side before they even know what happened." "Do you want to issue a statement?" she asked quickly. "Something calm, diplomatic, respect for all opinions, that kind of thing?" Blake gave a short laugh, low and dry. "Nah, I said what I meant out there. Ain't no sense pretending I didn't." Jenna hesitated. "She's already making the rounds in the press room, saying you overreacted." He looked at her sharply. "Overreacted?" She called half the country backwards. "I know," Jenna said softly. "But Joy's got the media on her side. This could get ugly fast." Blake pushed off the crate and started walking toward the exit hallway. "Let it. I'm not gonna apologize for having a backbone." Back inside the studio, Joy Behar sat stiffly in her chair during the commercial break. A stagehand handed her a cup of coffee, but she barely touched it. Whoopi leaned in quietly. "You good?" Joy huffed. "I'm fine. He's just too sensitive." "Or maybe," Whoopi said evenly, "you poke the bear one too many times." Joy frowned. "I was joking. It's the view. We banter." Whoopi nodded, her expression neutral but knowing. "Sure, but sometimes, jokes land different when you're talking to someone who's spent their life being talked down to." Joy didn't answer. She turned toward the audience as the countdown light began to blink, 5 seconds until live. Her smile reappeared, practiced and sharp. When the show came back, Whoopi tried to steer the energy into lighter territory, but the audience still buzzed from what they'd just witnessed. Social media was exploding. On the large monitor behind the set, producers could see live hashtags trending. Hashtag Blake Shelton, hashtag The View Meltdown, hashtag Respect Rural America. By the time the credits rolled, Joy's forced laughter had thinned into silence. She disappeared backstage, avoiding the press corner. Meanwhile, Blake stepped into a waiting car outside, the October air crisp against his face. His driver glanced at him through the mirror. "You okay, Mr. Shelton?" Blake sighed, finally cracking open the bottle of water he'd refused earlier. "Yeah, just another day on TV, I guess." The ride was quiet for a while. Manhattan's skyline glittered through the tinted windows. He pulled out his phone. Messages were flooding in. Texts from fellow country artists, friends, even a few comedians. Luke Bryan. "Damn, you didn't hold back. Proud of ya, brother." Reba McEntire. "You said what a lot of folks been thinking for years." Gwen. "You okay? That clip's everywhere, but I love what you said. Heart." He smiled faintly at Gwen's message. Her voice was the only one that mattered right now. A few minutes later, his phone rang, an unknown number. Jenna had already warned him this might happen. He sighed and answered. "Yeah, Blake, it's Tom Reynolds from ABC, came the careful, professional voice. "We'd like to smooth things over. Maybe a follow-up appearance, a chance to clarify what you meant." Blake chuckled humorlessly. "Oh, I think folks heard me just fine." Publicly, yes, Reynolds replied quickly, "but the network's getting heat. It'd help if you, well, helped us." Blake stared out the window, voice calm. "You mean help Joy save face?" There was a pause. "Let's just say we're all in this together." He hung up without another word. Hours later, As night fell over Nashville, his phone still hadn't stopped buzzing. Clips of the confrontation had been replayed on every talk show. Commentators argued over who was in the wrong. On one side, Blake Shelton, defender of small-town values. On the other, Joy Behar, veteran host under fire. But in the middle of the noise, something unexpected was happening. Fans from across the country, people who'd never watched The View in their lives, were posting clips of Blake's calm but firm words, "Old-fashioned's not a bad thing. Respect shouldn't change." It was being shared with captions like, "Finally someone says it," and "Blake just spoke for millions."